Hey guys, today I want to bring you a video on fashion and 2014. I just wanted to talk about some highlights and some important things that happened in the past year that I thought were worth mentioning and also having a timestamp of. I'm sure you guys know how all my videos work and we just get right into them, so let's get right into this one and I hope you guys enjoy. Kicking off this video, the first thing I want to talk about is Supreme and the fact that 2014 was their 20th anniversary. This past year marked their opening in 1994 of April and celebrated their 20 years of staying open. And Supreme celebrated this by releasing a Supreme box logo and a Supreme taxi driver t-shirt. I'm sure many people were aware of this at the time when it happened, and the reason why the taxi drivers re-released and the box logos was because these were the first two t-shirts that released back in 1994 when Supreme first opened. Besides that 20th anniversary, there wasn't really anything major going on with Supreme in this past year. That was really the only thing worth talking about with Supreme. And moving on from there, a great year that our brand had was Raf Simons. Talking about Raf now in 2014, this past year was a great year for him and the brand. And we can explain this by starting off with the Adidas collabs. I don't even know where to start with this collab, but there was the Stan Smith, the Oswegos, the Response Trail 2s and also the Bounces. I thought it was great that Adidas came together with Raf for these 4 collaborations because, to be honest, I think Raf encaptured the aesthetic that this shoe was going for perfectly. You can almost argue all these silhouettes are very different in a way, and when it comes to different, I think Raf is the best brand to capture that kind of aesthetic. So well done to Raf and Adidas on these collabs. Not only did Raf Simons collaborate with Adidas in 2014, the brand also collaborated with Sterling Ruby. On top of this, there was the Raf Simons and Fred Perry 10th anniversary collaboration, and also the Raf Simons and Stone Copenhagen collaboration to add on top of all of those. So you can see Raf Simons had a great year in 2014, and because of that I expect a lot from the brand in 2015. The brand has only gone up in popularity and only gone bigger and better. So as I said, let's see what 2015 holds and let's jump straight to Jordans. Talking about brand Jordan now, they wanted to go into another market, and that market was the luxury sneaker market, and they did this by bringing out the Jordan Shine model. Now don't get me wrong on this was a great idea for Jordan brand. I thought it was a great thing when I first heard about it, but my biggest problem with this was that it wasn't executed as well as it could have been. Now hey, that's just my opinion, so you don't have to agree with it, but as I said, I really just didn't like the execution on the shoe, and for a $400 price tag, I don't really see myself buying it or ever owning it in the future. But as we all know, the Jordan brand keeps repeating history and selling out constantly, and as always it's sold out again. So I guess people did like the shoe, and in my opinion really isn't the biggest of opinions. So you know, as I said, that's just my opinion. Well done to Team Jordan for selling that, and I guess people liked it, so well done. Jordan brand also dropped another silhouette in 2014, and this was the Future model. These shoes did release in different colorways, and I think the 3M colorway was the best, and that's what really made the shoe stand out for me. But besides that, I think I'll always be a retro lover, and I don't see myself wearing any other Jordan models besides from the retros. So props to Jordan again for releasing this, but yeah, no go for me, but well done. So now I'm going to list you some of my favorite releases from Jordan brand in 2014. Most of these are retro releases, or re-releases should I say, but that's just because I'm a massive fan of retros, as I said. So yeah, let's go. Starting off, we have the Air Jordan Future model, the 5 Lab 3 model, the Air Jordan 11 Concord Lows. There was also the Jordan 6 Champagne and Cigar model which released, and I thought this was a great release because I'm a massive fan of the 6 silhouette. There was also the Nike SB Lance Mountain ones, also the Air Jordan Infrared 6s, the Nike Zoom Vapor Tour AJ3s, which were a great release again, and this being because they appeal to another target market, this time around being tennis. And I just want to talk about this a little bit because I think it's awesome that Jordan brand can go and do that, because they dominate such a large sport being basketball, and then they come around and attack luxury sneakers and tennis as well. You know, for any brand to do that, it's awesome. So well done to Jordan brand, as I said, for doing that. Unlike the Jordan Shine model, this particular model was a great execution because Jordan brand teamed up with Roger Federer, and what better way to market a product in tennis than having one of the best players come alongside with you. So once again, as I said, they all sold out. And that is what we expect from Jordan brand, and that is what I expect from Jordan brand in 2015, especially because in 2014 they also mentioned they were going to remaster all details and all materials for Jordan retros. Also that released in 2014 were the black and white ones, the Bread 13s, the black gun ones, Legend Blue 11s, and finally the Fragment Royal Black Toe Jordan 1, which is a great way for Jordan brand to end 2014. Fragment ones I believe retailed at $165, and the resale on this shoe is above $800 now, which is ridiculous, but that is what we've come to accept and what we've become to learn from the Jordan brand. and specifically this shoe, it was very unique. So you know, when it's this unique, you expect it to blow up. Now those were just the significant releases I thought were mentioning in 2014. There was quite a few more releases from Jordan brand, but I don't really think they were worth mentioning or really are significant to street culture or even fashion. So let's move on from there and go to Vivienne Westwood and Pharrell. Now I'm sure you guys know what I'm going to talk about between these two, and that was the Vivienne Westwood buffalo hat. When this first came around, it was a very odd topic and people didn't really know how to approach it. And to be honest, I can understand why, because no one's really ever seen a hat like that. But Pharrell actually started wearing that hat back in 2009, and it only really started getting attention in 2014 because he started wearing it more casually. Gradually people started coming around to the idea of the hat more, and eventually it sold for $44,000 near the end of the year. So overall it was a great thing because it benefited the charity. So you know, I thought that would be worth mentioning because it was significant to the year as well as fashion. But moving on from there, let's just jump straight to Kanye West and talk about what he did for fashion in 2014. Another great thing that happened in 2014 for street culture was the Air Yeezy Red October 2s dropped in February of 2014. This really was a big deal because the shoe was teased for so long, through Kanye mentioning it in Yeezus, through Kanye wearing it in public. But finally it released, and a lot of people were waiting for it. Sadly, it wasn't the best of releases because it just dropped randomly, and the worst thing happened to me because I watched it just sell out in front of me. Actually, I was put in a queue and I was waiting for my turn to purchase the shoe, but then I just didn't get it. So you know, I kind of cried a little bit, and you know, it was emotional. Obviously, they did sell out, and resale prices escalated as we expect with any Air Yeezy. This being the third and final release because Kanye West also jumped from Nike to Adidas in 2014. The crazy thing about this is that like Nike and Adidas are massive competitors, so really Kanye just jumped from one company to the other in the same business. And only within a few months we saw what Kanye was doing positively for the Adidas brand. An example of this would be how the Stan Smiths came back into fashion and also had the Y3 cars that highs were in such in fashion and street style over the course of 2014. Personally, I don't think Kanye should have been let go from Nike, and that's mainly because of how influential he is and the fact that he's a style icon, and the fact that he does so much for the Nike brand in terms of street culture already. As well as that, seeing what he's doing for Adidas already and the fact that it's only going up from here, you know, he could have done a lot more for Nike, but I guess, you know, it's not really my place to speak on. We just have to let it happen and just see what Kanye does for Adidas in the future. Kanye also dropped a collaboration with APC, which was super cool, but it was super out of my price range, so I just had a look at it, I liked it. Did not purchase anything, do not plan to purchase anything, cannot purchase anything. But yeah, that was another great thing that came from Kanye, and the fact that he was able to come out with an APC collab just shows how much he's moving forward in fashion. I was really happy to see Kanye collaborating with APC, and that's mainly because Jean Tweetu and Kanye are such great friends, and you know, it was kind of like a bonding thing for them. So you know, so well done to APC, Jean and Kanye. Kanye also covered GQ magazine and Vogue, which are two massive fashion magazines, so you know, that's another great accomplishment for Kanye in 2014 and very significant to his career and fashion. So I thought that would be another thing worth mentioning. And last but not least, another great way to end 2014 was by Kanye modeling for Balmain alongside his wife. I think it's awesome that Kanye does things like this with his wife, and on top of that, it's a massive big deal because throughout 2012, throughout 2013 and even 2014, you know, Kanye was constantly getting hit with no's, and any opportunity that was given to him in fashion, it was always a no. This was really just a massive opportunity for Kanye, and we can only really see where he goes in 2015 from here, because this is where 2014 ended for him in fashion. Another great thing that happened from 2014 in terms of collaboration was the Riccardo Tisci and Nike collaboration on the Air Force One model and the garments from Nike. But as we've seen before, the footwear being the main attraction of this collaboration. Riccardo Tisci and Nike released 3 colorways of the shoe throughout the whole year, starting with the white, there was also the black, and finally the tans. This release followed a change on the original Air Force One model, and the reason behind this was because Riccardo Tisci had been such a massive fan of the model previously. This collaboration hit me very weird because when the whites released, I was not a fan of the shoe at all. I thought the clothes were stupid and I thought the shoe just didn't look right, so obviously from there, that was my mistake. Then the blacks released, and this is when my opinion changed because straight away I liked them instantly much more than the white, and I thought that they were much more wearable and they were much more like, you know, they just look better. I thought the colours worked better with the black as well. But then finally they released a tan colorway, and this is when they got me. Now the shade on that tan is perfect in my opinion, and on top of that I think the secondary colours complement the tan so well. I think this specific model was the perfectly executed version of the shoe, and you know, being in the tan colorway and all the secondary colours being right, and then on top of that being the high model. So right now that is another shoe on my hit list, and I hope to get it, but you know, it is an expensive and sold out shoe, so I do not see that happening anytime soon. But yeah, that was another great release for 2014. Now jumping away from Nike and Riccardo Tisci and collaborations and all that kind of stuff, I want to just talk a little bit about street style. Two significant things happened for street style in 2014. The first being Ian Connor styling Wiz Khalifa, and the second being ASAP Rocky and Hood by Yeah beef that's not beef. These were just two things I thought were shakes in the culture and were worth mentioning, and that's mainly because Rocky and Hood by Yeah had such a great relationship. That was up until the Hood by Yeah and the Bean Trill situation came about. Rocky touched up on this and he explained that he birthed Hood by Yeah so he could kill it. His reasoning being the fact that fashion is constantly changing and it is a constantly evolving category, as well as that it had a little bit of a tie-in with his growing up and his interest in fashion as he grew up. It isn't like beef between Hood by Yeah and Rocky, I just don't think they're as close as they used to be, which is a shame, but you know, as I said, we can only see where 2015 takes us. Just to touch up on this, I'm still a massive fan of Hood by Yeah and I still like all their releases up to now, so you know, I'm still excited for what they hold in the future as well. But about Ian Connor and Wiz Khalifa coming together, I thought this was significant to talk about because it pushed street style into a bigger and better light. Wiz pushed street style forward through Ian, and as I said, it was just something small I wanted to touch upon, just kind of at the timestamp of when this happened. One last thing I wanted to talk about was the Drake, OVO and Jordan collaboration that didn't really happen. I believe that these released in a Jordan 10 and a Jordan 12 model of a Drake and Jordan collaboration, and I believe they were only released to family and friends sadly. But in the beginning of 2014 this was an exciting rumour and exciting news to come out, but obviously now we haven't seen any release of it, so I just wanted to kind of touch upon that just to see if 2015 would bring us that OVO collaboration. But as I said throughout this whole video, all we can do is wait to see what this year brings. And to be honest, that's where I want to end today's video. I'll leave some links in the description for you guys to read a little bit more on the subject in case you are interested. As well as that, I'll leave some social handles, and besides that, I'll see you guys next time.